Hi everyone, this is the 200 subscriber Q&A video where you submitted questions and I would answer them. Thank you to everyone who submitted these questions, and I will jump into them right now. Our first question comes from Bible-believing Christian. Congratulations on reaching 200 subscribers. My question would be, out of all the books that you have read and reviewed on your channel, which is the one that had the biggest effect on you? Great question. Thank you once again, Bible-believing Christian. You have just been a tremendous supporter for this channel. You've watched this channel grow from the very beginning, so thank you so much for your continued viewership and support. Before I answer that question, I would want to give an honorable mention to another book, which was reviewed on this channel. It's the Rachel's Tears book that was reviewed last year. It was the 20th anniversary of the Columbine shootings. And that book has a bit of meaning to me and a lot of significance to me because that was the book that sort of got me interested in Christianity as a whole. It was a book during a time where I was questioning Christianity and questioning if there was a God that truly exists. And so to watch what unfolded that day, that was a really crazy event. I know everyone talks about September 11th, and that will always be probably one of the most monumental days in the United States history of tragedies. But right before that, a couple years before, the Columbine shootings, that was a big deal because that was probably the first real big shooting that got the attention of all the United States. And that sort of was the one that has started over the years, just a chain reaction of further shootings, but that was the biggest one. And that was a crazy time because that was during an era where cell phones were not really a commonplace, especially in schools. So there was very little opportunity to get pictures or videos of that day. But regardless, that got my attention. And when I discovered Rachel's Tears, that was a book where Rachel Joy Scott actually was willing to die for her faith. And from my point of view, that really intrigued me. That led me on a path towards investigating, was Christianity true? Was there truly a God that existed? And it did eventually lead me towards becoming a Christian myself. So I have to start with that one. But to answer your question, the book that had the biggest effect on me, that would be Crazy Love by Francis Chan, which came out, I believe, in 2008. It was 2007 when I actually gave my life to Christ. And so less than a year after that, to come across this book that was lent to me by a friend, it introduced me to a man by the name of Francis Chan, who at the time was the lead pastor of a church in Simi Valley, California called Cornerstone. And from that book, it got me interested in his speaking and his sermons. I probably watched almost every single sermon on their church website because I just really loved Francis as a speaker. It's just whenever he spoke, it made sense. He was able to explain Christianity and God's love in a way that just made sense. It was so down to earth. It was so easily digestible. He just spoke in a way that was just refreshing. The one sermon that really spoke to me was and it was probably one of his most infamous sermon messages. It was called Lukewarm and Loving It. Because of reading that book, it led me to Francis Chan, and it led me to his speaking, and it led me to that particular message, which then just had a tremendous impact on just the way I view the world, just the way I view my life, and the way I view God's love. So it really changed it changed my whole worldview and the way I saw things, and it just made living for Christ this actual amazing joy and privilege and honor. So that is the book that really had the greatest effect on me, Crazy Love by Francis Chan. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for submitting it. Our next question comes from Esha. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm gonna go with Esha. I apologize if that's not correct. Esha Skeppel. Love your video about Terry Fox. What was your favorite part about doing that video? Well, great question, and thank you so much. I'm glad you loved that video. It took a lot of work. So what I loved, in terms of the review, my favorite part was actually just reading the book, because it totally gave me so much new information about Terry's life. It really added a human side to Terry, and I think I just loved the authenticity and accuracy of it because it was written by Leslie Scrivener, who was weekly following him during his Marathon of Hope. So I saw so many different sides of Terry that I didn't actually know before, and I think a lot of people don't know before, and especially the most important detail was his faith in Jesus. I never really knew if he actually did follow Jesus or believed in him, and from reading that book, it's clear that he did put his faith in Jesus, or at least wanted to pursue him, and going to church regularly and reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. It was pretty awesome that because of the friend he met in Recanada, to at least exploring Christianity to the point where he did put his faith in Jesus. And you don't hear that part in mainstream retellings of his story. Not to mention just other sides of Terry, just the times he got frustrated and angry, some of the things that he said, like these are things that are not mentioned in the media. And so I really loved reading that part of the book. But in terms of your question about doing the video, the part that I really enjoyed, ironically, or as weird as this sounds, was the several scenes of the 1980s television in the video, because that basically was a stock clip. So that's actually not my hand turning the channels, but it was a really awesome stock video clip that it really helped guide me to take the video in an angle where the changing of the channels sort of made it look like it was also changing the chapters in Terry's life in a chronological way. Since there was a lot of stock archived videos of Terry, a lot of them were recorded on a lower resolution and by 4:3, and so nowadays to put that video in HD 16:9 widescreen, it's hard to do that without stretching it to the point where you lose the quality. And so I was so fortunate to find a high resolution picture of not only of a 1980s TV, but almost precisely that model of the stock clip. And so it was so hard trying to find a picture to match that, and then to actually use that picture and to crop out the screen and to treat the picture as a mask, where then I can actually put video to make it look like the video is actually being portrayed on that TV when really it's just a still image. And then all the effects I had to do to actually make it look like the video was not just a flat video, but it actually, to give it like a curvature to it where it actually looked like it was being played on a tube TV screen, and to also replicate the static and even like the noise and scratches of the video. That was a lot of post-production work I had to do, and it actually looked, once it was all put together, it looked absolutely seamless. It looked really well done. I never tried something like this before, so to be able to replicate that effect, that was a lot of fun. It was a huge challenge, and to just be able to do the challenge successfully, that's the part that I loved most about the video. Not to mention, obviously there are so many other things I probably loved about doing that video. It was a lot of work, it was hard work. The success of the video, it's really taken off now. It's nice to see your hard work pay off. Just that detail, that small detail, but it gave a fresh angle to the video. I hope that answer makes sense. I hope I answered your question. Thank you so much for submitting it. Our next question comes from Face to Faith. Congrats on reaching 200 subscribers. I've enjoyed your selection of books, authors, and informative reviews. Which apologist appeals to you the most, and why? Well, thank you so much for the congratulations, and thank you for the question. I had to give quite a bit of thought about that because there are so many great apologists. But you are asking the question, which apologist appeals to me the most? So not so much the greatest apologist or like probably my favorite apologist. You're asking the one that appeals to me the most. And so giving some thought about that, when I came to all the apologists that I thought about, I think the one that appeals to me the most is John Lennox. And while he certainly could be almost right up there at the top with William Lane Craig and Ravi Zacharias, honestly, I lump those three together as the greatest. But the one that probably of the three that appeals to me the most would be John Lennox. While Ravi Zacharias I love because he's a great storyteller and he's great at sort of flipping the narrative when there comes to be objections of the Christian faith. He's really good at kind of turning those arguments against the other person that's giving it. But I do love that John Lennox sort of just has this really friendly demeanor to him. He is just so well-spoken. He is soft-spoken. Not to say Ravi is not, but it feels like I'm just talking to like a grandfather that just wants to really speak with you, talk with you. He speaks in a soft, gentle, loving tone where you can't help but just want to listen to him. It's just so contagious. While William Lane Craig is also a down-to-earth, personable apologist, I think the slight difference between the two, I think they're both brilliant, but I think a lot of times William talks in such a technical sense and there's just so much intellect in his words, which is absolutely amazing. I think that's probably the part that I think John I find appealing the most or intrigues me the most, is he sort of also adds a storytelling ability that also makes sense. And I just love his humility. He's a guy that during debates, he's not afraid to say, you know what, I wrestle with that question. I actually don't have a good answer for that. I think that's refreshing. I think even to skeptics, people actually see a side to him that says, you know what, as smart as I am, I don't have all the answers, and I do wrestle with these things. Also, I just love even his debating. He's everything you want of apologetics. He's almost the model of what an apologist should be like, where you are to give a reasonable defense of why you believe what you believe in, but doing so in gentleness, love, and respect. And I think you see the greatest examples where he actually has debated Richard Dawkins multiple times, which is funny to me because Richard Dawkins always refused to debate William Lane Craig, but yet little did he realize when he chose to debate a mathematician in John Lennox, he in theory was just debating an apologist almost to the same intellect as William Lane Craig. So we sort of got what we wanted anyways. But even just seeing the two debate each other, you can still see just how much John Lennox respects his opponents and respects them just as human beings. He just has this friendly nature even to his most opposed opponents. And when you watch those debates that he has with Richard Dawkins, you can just see the amount of respect he has for him and just really cares about him, just really genuinely respects him as a human being. And that's always what we should strive to in apologetics, not just refute an argument, but to actually do so with lovingness, gentleness, and respect. So I would say John Lennox would be the apologist that appeals to me the most, or I find the most fascinating. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for submitting it. All right, our next question comes from OCC EDM Plus Area. Congratulations. Will you be appearing on camera more in the future? Great question. And the quick answer to that is not yet. I definitely wrestle with that because I'm not a person that really naturally does well in front of the camera. I'm not really well spoken. I do struggle. I'm still trying to get used to the idea of speaking in front of a camera. I just can't really speak off the top of my head. A lot of the times when I speak, it's really because I wrote it down first. So if I was to have a teleprompter, I would gladly read that, but I don't really like to use the teleprompter because it just doesn't feel genuine anymore. I'd rather speak off the top of my head or ad-lib it. It just actually feels like a more personal conversation. But that's my problem. I'm not very good at thinking off the top of my head. There's always a detail that I eventually forget to mention. And that's why I like to write things down. I remember everything, but no one wants to look at me reading a piece of paper all the time. But this is the conundrum I find myself in because now it's gone to the point where to actually produce more content, that is the easiest way to do it, is to appear on camera. It is just so much more easier than trying to find a bunch of B-roll, record a lot of B-roll, or to create a lot of graphics. While that adds a huge element of quality, it's time consuming and it's hard. And I think that's why I definitely see a lot of channels where they just basically talk on camera, because it really is the easy thing to do, and it definitely adds way more quantity of videos, and I think that's just the reality. That's what YouTube wants. They want channels that consistently are putting out content. And while I don't really want to bow down to that kind of demand, there is value in it, because the more videos that I can create, the more books that I can share about. And so it is coming to the point where I do have to go on camera. So I think I will at one point. It's bound to happen. It's going to take some getting used to, because, yeah, like I said, I'm not well spoken. So hopefully over time, maybe I will. But yeah, that's just the reality of it. It's the whole quantity versus quality that every YouTube channel has to wrestle with. Too much of either definitely has its disadvantages. And so I've focused on quality for a very long time, and while it has paid off in certain ways, clearly I am seeing some disadvantages to it. Just can't get as many videos out as possible. So I am going to embrace the quantity effect, and part of that is going on camera. I don't know when, and I don't know what that looks like, but it is bound to happen. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for submitting it. And our last question goes to Gemini Entertainment. Thank you for all the great work you are doing. What do you think are some reasons that helped you gain these recent subscribers so fast? I think the very first one that really got a huge jump in subscribers was a video I did about my favorite 20 YouTube apologetics channels. That one was a ton of work, and it took a lot of effort to make that video look very nice and polished. The hard work essentially somehow paid off, because someone actually noticed that video, and that someone would be Vocab Malone, who is a street apologist and usually likes to debate against Hebrew Israelites. And so he actually noticed that video, and he actually gave this channel its first ever shout out in the community section. And so considering his subscriber base basically got to see that community post he made, it definitely gained a lot of attention very fast. And he also mentioned a few well-known apologetic channels in What Do You Mean with John McCrae, and also Acts 17 Apologetics with David Wood, and also Apologetics with Preston Perry. He also mentioned those three channels, and I don't know if they ever saw the video. I hope they did, but yeah, when you do a community post like that and you mention three other big YouTubers, yeah, it gets attention pretty fast. And I got at least 30 or more subscribers just from Vocab Malone's shout out. So Vocab, if you're watching this, thank you very much. I really appreciate the shout out, and I hope we can meet up one day. It'd be awesome to connect with you. And to the subscribers, thank you as well. I'm just honored that you have chosen to subscribe to this, and I hope this channel does give you value. Yeah, another factor, I think this is where the quality of my videos was paying off, but also I think just the fortunate timing of it. Again, the Terry Fox video, that one is quite fascinating, because that one started back in January of 2020. I wanted to get the ball rolling on that because I wanted to have it released on April 12th, 2020, which is the 40-year anniversary when Terry started his Marathon of Hope. There's a sort of a dual purpose for that. The first would be that if that 40th anniversary gets recognized, my video will be launched right there. But also, it would already have been published by the time September rolls around, and that is also would be the 40-year anniversary of basically the Terry Fox Run, which is a massive fundraiser for cancer research. That's also a huge event on the Fox family calendar. But what was funny was both those dates went by. Still, I didn't get any traction, but it was what I found fascinating. What I think was a week after the Terry Fox Run in September, I noticed the video took off. Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people were watching the video. I'm thinking, these dates have well long passed. What could have it been? I think the fortunate timing was there was a Terry Fox children's book that just got released, and in a week of that video being released, 20,000 people watched it. My guess is all those people that were typing in Terry Fox book, they watched that video, but they also saw in the search the video that I created. And so I think I got a lot of the residual traffic. It really took off from that. Also, I just decided to implement some different strategies from the first 100 subscribers. This time around, I sort of want to try to not waste time, get right to the point, not do too much B-roll of the book, but also at the same time, also try and give the viewer a lot more things to look at. I notice in my videos, the videos that do the most well would be the ones that actually have visual elements in them, like the Kingstone Bible. That still is a video that is just gaining lots of attention, being an illustrated comic Bible. The visual theology books, those have a lot of visual elements in it. And it's true, books will always appeal to a certain audience. It is hard for viewers to just look at text on pages. It's just such a common thing. So I decided to really try to implement more graphics in my video, just to sort of keep the attention going, try to prolong the watch time of the videos, which I think is working a little bit more. I didn't just waste time talking on things that really were not relevant to the viewer. So kind of getting to the point, putting in lots of graphical elements, and also just doing some quicker edits, some cuts. I'm trying to follow a bit of a 3-second rule where trying to keep a lot of the cuts to around 3 seconds to sort of keep the viewer engaged. Because a lot of my older videos, I had longer sequences that were like 5 seconds or long, and sad to say that there needs to be a good reason to have long takes like that before you do a cut. Sadly, people lose interest when the edits are actually longer, so when you're doing lots of quicker edits, it definitely keeps the attention span going. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is what it is. Other than that, I would say also just trying to capitalize on trends like anniversary dates. Hopefully what people are currently searching, which is kind of hard to do in the realm of books. I'm not always tackling new releases, but I'm also trying to do books that are either older books that maybe people have forgotten or didn't know existed, or yeah, just trying to bring to light books that people have never heard of. I've tried a lot of those ideas and I think they all have contributed, but this is clearly a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out what actually works, and I'm thankful that some of these things I did actually pay off and got the next 100 subscribers a lot faster. I don't know what to do next. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but I would say those are some of the things that got those most recent subscribers. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it was just some fortunate timing too. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I hope that answer makes sense. Thanks for submitting it. Okay, I think those are all the questions I have for this video. Thank you to everyone that took the time to submit those questions. They were fantastic questions, gave me so much to think about. And thank you to everyone else that have continued to support this channel and watch all these videos. It means a lot to me that this channel gives you value, and I hope to continue to give you even more value down the road. So again, thank you everyone so much, and until next time, keep exploring.